This is probably up there with probably the #1 question that I get asked on the channel. And it came about because years ago, 5-6 years ago, when I first started the channel, I did a lot of food plots that were quote unquote in the woods, and they can work very well, and people still have questions about them even though I've made dozens of videos about it. And as years go on, you continue to learn different things, different techniques, but at the end of it, it's still the same idea, and that's to create something green and growing, to get it to grow, have enough sunlight to get it to grow and attract deer. That's the end goal, the end result. And I want to explain to you what we did on this little woods food plot, kill plot, whatever you want to call it. That's in the woods. It was in the woods, it still is in the woods. We just cut trees out to get enough sunlight to the forest floor to promote growth so plants can photosynthesize and can be palatable to the deer. So what we did was, I'm going to explain to you step by step and exactly what we planted, what we did, and I'll show a soil report that we recently took of this soil here in this plot. I'll put it up on the screen, and it's going to show you the improvement that's happened over the course of, this is going to be the 3rd growing season. So what we did was, we came in here, me and Chris, we came in with some chainsaws and we cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trees out of here. They were all pines. We cut those down, we drug them away from the plot, and that allowed enough sunlight to get in here. Now this plot kind of slopes downhill this way just a little bit. Up here, up top, is our main food source, and it drops down a little bit, kind of levels off here, and then it drops down just ever so slightly, goes downhill. This plot is roughly about a 1/16 of an acre. It's pretty small. Now how this plot relates to the rest of the property is, up here you have our main food source. You have a kill plot here. Down below here, there's a travel route that goes to a bedding area that we created 2 years ago, which some hinge cuts, and we dropped some trees. And actually, about a month ago, we came through with a chainsaw and we made a travel corridor through the existing deer trail. We just made it better, enhanced it. I had a video up about that. But we made a travel corridor back to the bedding area, which is approximately 150 yards away or so. And today, we actually came through with a leaf blower. We blew all the leaves out off that trail, just kind of cleaned it up a little bit, promote it, let the deer use it more. And we've had a camera on that trail for probably 2 weeks now to make sure that the deer were using it coming to this kill plot that related to the bedding area, and they are. And I'll add those videos in here. Now what we did, we came and cut these trees down, drug them away from the plot, okay? Once we did that, we cleaned the debris up a little bit, we left the stumps. A lot of people are freaked out about, well, what do you do with the stumps? Well, who really cares? The stumps are there. If you have the means to get them out, then get them out. We left them in here. Now this year, 3 years later, we're getting a skid steer in here. We're going to remove these stumps. Do we have to do it? No. We're only doing it because we're renting a skid steer for another project up on the north side of the property. So while we have it, we're going to come here and rip these stumps out. For basically one reason, is just make it a little bit easier to disc the ground up. You don't have to go around the stumps and things like that. So leave the stumps if you have to. Who really cares? No big deal. Once we cleaned the debris up, left the stumps there, we soil tested it prior to all this. It came back as a 4.2 pH, very acidic, had no nutrients in the soil whatsoever. When you get these types of food plots in the woods, especially with the pines, you're going to have a very acidic soil, and that's okay. You can fix that over time. So it was a 4.2 pH, no fertility levels whatsoever, no organic matter, nothing in this soil. It was very, very poor. Probably one of the poorest soils that I've ever seen. We came in and we added 2,000 pounds of lime. And you might say, well, man, that's a lot of lime. Well, people don't understand, it takes a lot of lime to move the pH numbers a lot of lime. I see guys saying, oh, I added 200 pounds of lime to my acre food plot. Really? Well, what's that going to do? It's not going to do much. It takes a lot of lime. And I see sometimes where people will get soil samples and it might say 5,000 pounds of lime to the acre. And they're like, is this right? Does this really make sense? Do I really need to add this much lime? Well, you need to follow that. You may not have to add that all at once. It's best to do, when you have that much lime, to do split applications. And that's okay, because if your CEC is very low, the soil can't hold all of that. And that's why it's best to split those applications up. But we came in, we added 2,000 pounds of lime. We disked it in, let it sit for roughly 2 months. We came in and we planted a mix of annual clovers. Chris came in with his four-wheeler and he disked it all up with the Groundhog Max, and we planted annual clovers in here. I'll play the video over it. We let that grow. It grew very well. It grew it was over 1 foot tall clovers. Now, the first year, deer, that spring and summer, deer very rarely touched it. And I assume one of two reasons is because it wasn't very palatable, because the pH was very low, had low fertility levels and all that. 2, it was a new plot, new area, they're getting used to it. You know, we had some deer cross through, but they didn't really pay attention to the clover too much. So we let that go all summer. We came back in again, Chris, with the Groundhog Max. We disked all that clover back in for that nitrogen and green manure into the soil. And that fall, we planted a smorgasbord full of stuff. We just threw extra seeds that we had in here. We had some extra winter wheat, a little bit of winter rye. I think we had a little bit of clovers. We threw a smidge of brassicas in. We just let that grow. Just let it grow. We fertilized it according to soil samples, paid attention to all that, and we let it go. Never hunted this food plot that year. Went through the winter time. We came back in here last spring, and I took a leaf blower. Had a lot of leaves in here. I blew all these leaves out the way. Well, all that clover that we had in there came right back up. We added a little bit more clover. We came in and frost seeded clover. And we did that. It was 2 different varieties of clover. We let that grow. It went all spring, all summer. We came back in and we actually disked that back in. Again, green manure, nitrogen in the soil. We also added another 1,000 pounds of lime. Okay, so that's 3,000 pounds total on the 1/16 of an acre. We did that, and in the fall, we planted straight winter wheat, which now you can see behind me, the winter wheat is coming back up, which today's April 10th in the Northeast. It's greening up. It's probably 75 degrees out today, beautiful day. And all this winter wheat's coming up. I actually see a little bit of clovers coming up back as well, which is perfectly fine, who cares? So we came back in and we let that go. We planted a winter wheat, let it go all winter long. We came in about 3 weeks ago and we soil sampled it. Soil samples up on the screen. Look at the improvement. Massive amounts. pH jump, great. The fertility levels jumped. The organic matter jumped up. I think we had like 1% organic matter in here. Look at it now. It's up there. It's starting to move on the scale. So here we are now, April 10th. What do we do with it? Well, we're going to let this green up for probably another 6 weeks or so. I'm not frost seeding this because we are coming in with the skid steer to remove these stumps. So whatever's here is going to kind of get tore up, which I'll sacrifice that, no big deal. Deer are starting to use the plot now. They're eating in here. Play the footage of the video trail cameras. They're eating it because it's more palatable. They've become used to it. And this year we're going to hunt it. Now, most of the deer come from that bedding area. They come in, they eat on this food plot, and then they work their way back up to our main food plot at the top here, which all is all in winter wheat as well. So what we're going to do this year is, I think we're going to, once we get the skid steer out of here, we're going to disc this up, and I think I'm going to plant it in buckwheat. I'm going to try buckwheat this spring and summer and let that go, and we're going to disc that back in the fall, and then we're going to come in and we're going to plant some No BS from Domain Outdoors. We're going to let that grow and then let that go through the winter, and then we'll do something else next year. But when you're creating these food plots, this was our process. We eliminated the trees, we corrected the soil, and we have enough sunlight to get to the plants. The number one failure with these food plots in the woods is not enough sunlight. I don't care what you plant, what the bag says of the seed that you buy. I don't care what it says. You need sunlight to be able to plant a food plot. For plants to grow, you have to have sunlight. It doesn't always have to be filtered sunlight or direct sunlight. It can be filtered sunlight. But even still, you still have to have enough sunlight for the plants to photosynthesize and to grow. The number one thing that you'll see when you plant food plots in the woods, number one failure, is the plants will grow very fast, very tall, and then you get a rain, a heavy wind, that plant flops right over. The reason behind that is you don't have enough sunlight and the plants develop heavy tops and a weak root system. The sun is not photosynthesizing the plants. I can't say that word, but it's not giving the nutrients to the plants. That's direct sunlight for that plant to develop that root system, and it just flops right over, has weak root system, flops right over. See it all the time. Happened to me years ago until you learn. But I'm sharing this with you so you guys don't have these failures. But it'll flop right over. So what do? You need more sunlight. You have to correct the soil, you have to correct the pH, you have to correct the fertility levels, and you can have a great food plot in the woods. These are our steps we followed. You guys can follow them as well. They're pretty simple. Each food plot that you plant, it's always the same goal. Fertility levels, pH, sunlight, make sure it's in the right spot. You can get in and out of it. With this food plot, we can actually circle back around the top side here. We can hunt one of these trees over to my left. We can hunt, if we continue down this path this way, we can cut down an old logging road. We can intersect this travel route between here and the bedding area, which should be good, especially during the rut. So if you have any questions about food plots in the woods, what to plant, any questions about them, comment down below. I'll reply to you guys, help you out as much as I can. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on the next video.